Welcome to Networking with Nathaniel, a podcast where I get to talk to entrepreneurs, real estate investors, and just people doing cool things. I get to learn from them, you get to learn from them, and we get to have good conversations. If this is your first time here, welcome. If you find any value in the podcast, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel so you will be notified as soon as we go live every week and any updates and videos that I do along the way. This week, I have a very special guest, somebody that I've been connecting with mainly on Instagram for a little while now, that is helping people find their passion. She is a married woman, a wife, and a mother to two beautiful little boys. I want to say they were like 5 and 3, but started out in corporate America and ended up finding out that that wasn't for her and wanted to find her own passion, which was helping find other people find their passion. Oh, I'm gonna butcher it. Ikigai, right? Well, yeah, yay, thank you. Without further ado, let's welcome to Networking with Nathaniel, Rosie Noel. I appreciate you being here.
Hi, thank you.
Yeah, how
I'm
you
so
doing?
excited to be here. Good, I'm good. How are you? Thank you for having me.
I'm doing very well. I'm excited to be here as well. I'm excited to have you on. I talk to a lot of real estate investors and entrepreneurs, and one thing that I love really talking about is mindset, finding your whys, finding your passions, and kind of creating your life around that stuff. That's something that I'm very passionate about myself, being a husband and a father. Like, I lead with that in pretty everything that I do. So I guess, like, what keeps you busy during the day? I know you have a busy schedule, but
Yes.
yeah.
Oh my gosh. Everything. And yes, so what keeps me busy? So I
Yeah.
wear a lot of hats, as you said. Yes, I'm a wife, I'm a mom, and I have my own coaching business. I primarily do coaching. I do a little bit of consulting. And so, but even within that, there's so many different things. Like, I have friends who are like, "Oh, you're so good at this one thing. You should specialize in that." But I'm like, I just can't. I like doing so many things, right? But I
Yeah.
certainly have focus areas. So right now, today, this year, what's keeping me busy is I've been doing a lot of work with people that are setting goals right now, which it's the new
Okay.
year. It's like the individual person's performance review is usually like January, right? In the corporate
Yeah.
world, it can be at different points in the year, especially the entrepreneurs. And so I've been doing a lot of work in setting goals, not just for myself and with my clients, but I ended up creating a goal setting workbook, which I had no intention of doing, but I couldn't find one that I liked for myself. So I
Mm.
ended up building one, and I was going to give it away as a freebie. Then I started selling it. It's like, it's so funny. I say all of this because what I've really been leaning into this year, really, as I kind of close out last year and this year, was like, what things give me the most energy and how can I
Mm.
just run toward those things more? And yes, I have all these voices and noise that are saying you should do this and you should do that, and I'll kind of talk about Ikigai a little bit with that, but it's like, what are the things that I enjoy doing? And when I do them, they don't feel like work and I produce better results. Like, I'm having fun. It's like that intersection of like, the Ikigai is what you love, what you're good at, what the world needs, and when you can get paid for. And so
Okay.
the more you can check those boxes, the truly the easier it feels. And we grow up in such a society, we live in such a society that says like grind, grind, grind. It should feel hard. You should be miserable, right? And like, nobody gets out of doing hard work, but you shouldn't feel miserable while you're doing hard work, right? It
Right.
shouldn't be torturing yourself. And so I've been really, all of that to say, my days have been occupied with like, I still do a lot of coaching. I do some consulting on like talent, right? How can you optimize your team and how can you optimize your talent on your team? So I do a lot of work in that, coaching on people's talents and with their teams. But then I also have this like sort of these other passions that I'm exploring, like goal setting right now. And how can I help people set better goals, not just within their business, but even individuals?
Mm.
So yeah, as you can tell, I have a lot of energy right now around some.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So and one thing that um you mentioned when we were talking on Instagram and through email, and I know that you have done a podcast with Pace Morby, the leader of Sub 2, that I forget what it's called. It's called the oh shoot. Yeah, you know
Clifton
it,
Strengths?
the person, yeah, the CliftonStrengths test, yeah.
Yes, yes.
And is that something that you go through with all of your clients first and foremost, or is that just like kind of side thing that you do? And how does that kind of fill into the, oh man, Ikigai?
Ikigai.
Yeah.
Yes, and it's so funny because I know you had Vina Jetty on
Mhm.
your podcast before, and when I
Yeah.
first told her about it, she's like, "Rosie, that's the Japanese word. It's not pronounced Ikigai. It sounds like you're saying a gross guy." And I was like, "I think it's pronounced Ikigai." I'm like, I've been
Yeah.
saying this word for a long time.
Yeah.
And so yes, eventually I looked up to confirm, and it is Ikigai.
Yeah.
So if you forget,
Ikigai.
it's just
Yeah.
a gross guy. Yeah, which doesn't
Yeah. It's
make
just
any
a gross guy.
sense.
Icky. Yeah.
Um,
That's funny.
um, so yes, I do a lot of the foundational pieces of my coaching are Ikigai, Clifton Strengths, and values. And I use those
Okay.
things to help people set their goals. And so why I love Clifton Strengths, and I've incorporated it with Pace's community, a lot of other, because I've been kind of circulated in a lot of real estate entrepreneur circles, I've been able to work with like Jamil Damji, right? Like he's another person in that space who's taken his Clifton Strengths, and Vina and
Okay.
Tyler Devereaux. It's just all of these Heather Blankenship. And it's so funny. They have a lot of very similar Clifton Strengths. They all tend to lead with like these influencing themes, which makes sense. People that
Mm.
have these big communities and want to make a big impact lead with the strengths that tie to that. But I do incorporate strengths into all of I do one-off sessions with people where it's like somebody's like, "I took this assessment. I have no idea what it means. I'm in Pace's community. Help me understand how I can use my results more in real estate," right? So I do that. But when I work with people on an ongoing session, strengths are just foundational because it gives us language to talk about, like, okay, Nathaniel, like, what are you? She sounds expensive. I hope I look expensive
Yeah,
too.
that's right. Yeah.
Um, um, but oh gosh, I lost my train of thought. Oh,
Yeah, I
it's so
shouldn't have put it up
foundational.
right then.
No, 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 that's
Yeah.
okay. It just gives us language to talk about, and it helps me get to know my clients faster. Because if
Right.
right, it's like an assessment that helps me. The Clifton Strengths is an assessment that tells me, okay, Nathaniel, it will tell me what are the things you do think and feel the most of. So it's not like, and once I see those things, I'm like, oh, okay, you like hosting a podcast because you like to meet with thought leaders and have deep conversations, right? And that
Mm,
ties to some of those strengths that you have around thought leadership, right?
yeah.
And so other people might like Pace might host a podcast because it allows him to have a wider influence. So we all might do the same things, but they're motivated by different strengths that we
Interesting.
have. And when you kind of tie those in, when you think about like, so Ikigai, like I said, is what you love, what you're good at, what the world needs, and what you can get paid for. And Clifton Strengths checks that box of what you're good at, right? Like it can tell me the things you're good at. And usually it can help point us to all of the other ones. Like the next natural one is, okay, just because you're good at it, what aspects of it do you love? If you real estate, right? There's millions of people that get involved in real estate. Why real estate for you? What does that tie? What strengths do you use? What values does that bring to life for you that make you attracted to real estate? And
Mm,
so, how do we find what you love within real estate? Obviously, we know that's something you can get paid for and that the world needs. So, it's like, how do we, the strengths are really just offer us an additional data point. I am Clifton Strengths, like a lot of thinking themes. So, I use a lot of the data to just inform how I coach people.
okay. Yeah, I didn't take the CliftonStrengths test.
I know
I
you
wanted
have to. You
well,
have
I
to.
didn't wanna do it before the podcast and then, steer the conversation that way. I wanted it to be more about, what you're doing and what you're up to, but I've done and it's probably not the same, or it's definitely not the same, but it's similar. I'm guessing like the Myers-Briggs. What I struggled with on those is I guess being truthful on the test.
Mm,
Like I used, oh, this was the last time I took it was when I was in college and I was going for mechanical engineering and I took the test like, well, what would a mechanical engineer answer? Essentially,
mm.
how do you, I don't know, how do you coach people to just be truthful about it? Or is that something that you just like have to leave up to the individual?
Yeah, it's such a good question, and I was doing a free call last week on goal setting, and somebody hadn't taken the assessment yet, asked a similar question. So, and just to because that comment will live in my brain forever, just for context. So, yes, so my coaching sessions for just a single coaching session, it's $650 an hour, and so it's not cheap. And So that's where you dive deep into your CliftonStrengths. But I will say, if somebody's just interested in the concept of CliftonStrengths, the assessment is $60. It's something you take one time, and I'll explain to you kind of to answer your question. At a minimum, take the assessment. It's super personalized. So it doesn't just say here's your things, right, and here's what they mean. It says here's what they mean for you. Your strength, my number one strength, and your number one strength might be the same, but the way that my strength shows up is going to be unique because of all of my other strengths and the combinations. And so with this assessment, it is I come from the corporate space, so I was a vice president of talent development at like a Fortune 1000 company, and we used DISC. Are you familiar with the DISC
Oh,
assessment?
I've heard of it. Yeah. Don't quote me on it.
Yeah. It's like Tony Robbins uses it a lot, but
Mm.
it was our primary tool in the corporate space until we introduced CliftonStrengths. So I'm familiar with that. We at a former when I worked at a Fortune 500 company, we used Myers-Briggs. So I'm familiar with a lot of
Okay.
the other ones. I've taken Enneagram. I don't know that one as well. It's not really something that they use in the corporate space. All of that to say, when you are taking the assessment, there's like 160 some questions. They give you 20 seconds to answer, and you answer questions on
Okay.
like a sliding scale. So it might ask you a question like, I like to take walks on the beach. I like to read books. And you have to choose, right? You might choose in the middle, like I love them both equally. Or you might say, I love one more than the other. And you just answer those questions over and over again. They time you because they want your gut reaction, exactly what you said. They
Yeah.
don't want you to overthink it. And what I have found in my experience is that it's like it's just trying to assess again the things you do think and feel the most of. So there are ways that you can answer it aspirationally. I've really only seen it in all of my experience one time where I saw somebody's results that I knew it was a corporate leader, and I was like, this is not you. Like I know you,
Um,
this is not you. And it's exactly what you said. He was a super introvert, he was the lead, like head of our financial department actuary, and he had all orange influencing themes like a Pace or a Vina or a Tyler Devereaux, and his personality was like quiet, all of these
mm,
things. And I was like, he took it in a leader when he was doing a leadership program. So I think he was like, well, this is what a leader should answer, right? But 99% of the time, the way that they formulate the questions, and they really encourage you to say like, just what is true for you, what do you like more, walking on the beach or reading a book, right? Like sometimes it's hard,
yeah.
with some of those questions it's hard to fake it the first time that you take it. I have seen people not like their results and say I want to take it again, and they know how to trick it. Don't do
Oh,
that, right?
yeah. Okay.
So moral of the story, yes, take the assessment. It takes 20 minutes, and to answer with your gut reaction, and you will find that the results really do resonate. It's you essentially have to try to game it if you want to answer aspirationally.
Yeah.
It's harder to game.
I could get
I know,
it.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm already
Yeah.
guessing you lead with strategic
Yeah.
thinking.
Yeah.
You could game it, but then, yes, you won't get the value out of it.
Right. Yeah, that's the point is to be able to come to you now with an honest assessment here that we can talk through things together. I know that you mentioned it was, I think, $60, right?
$60.
59.99. Is that getting like an appointment or a time with you to go over it together? Is that something separate? How do we include that? Or how
Yeah,
do we, yeah.
that's just the cost of the assessment. Whether you buy it through me or through Gallup, it's just $60. They have
Okay.
a $25 version too. If people are like, I'm not sure if this is for me and I don't want to shell out the $60, there's a $25 version. And what the $60 version does is it says there's 34 strengths that we have. Like, so basically Gallup has said there are an infinite amount of talents that people have if we define talent as anything that you do think and feel on a recurring basis. I'm out of bound
Okay.
in any bell curve.
Yeah.
Yes, you will probably also lead with green CliftonStrengths themes, which are like green are strategic thinking themes. That's what I lead. I'm
Okay.
guessing that's what you lead with too,
That seems pretty
Nathaniel.
just based on that very first.
Yes. um, and so, what was I going to say? Oh, so that's just purely the assessment. And it basically says, it ranks you. It basically says, okay, well, if the way that we've defined talent is like, right, anything you do think and feel on a recurring basis that can be productively applied, they started grouping them together into these themes. So there's 34 themes that they've identified. So one
Mhm.
theme is communication, another theme is competition, another theme is strategic, right? Somebody who's strategic. And so it ranks you from like 1 to 34, the things you do the most frequently and the things you do the least frequently. And then, so when you order the $60 report, it gives you the full report that says, what's your number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all the way down to 34. If you order the $25 report, it just gives you your top 5. So, which is really good for somebody that's like, I don't know if this is worth $60. I just want to see what my top 5 are to see if it piques my interest. And you can always, buy up to get the $60 assessment. So
Okay.
no, it doesn't include the assessment alone is just a fixed cost to order it. And then, but I always recommend getting the full report because if you like the top 5, it costs more money to unlock it to go up to the full like $60, right? You end up paying like $75. So
Yeah.
the $60 version is just more robust, and there's so many, like I said, I'm $650 an hour to coach with me. If somebody orders the assessment and they want to go through it, it's $650 to go
There's
through
your
the
answer,
assessment.
Justin.
Yes. Yeah, not cheap, right? Looks
Yeah, no.
expensive, sounds expensive.
Yeah.
And what was I going to say? Oh, but there's so many free resources. Like the
Mm.
material, you get like a 20-some page report from Gallup, and then they have podcasts that you can listen to where there's like, if your number 1 strength is competition, you can listen to 5 different podcasts that talk about how to use your competition intentionally.
Okay. Okay.
So that's what I love is like, because Gallup is such a research-based organization, and it's such a mindset shift when you use CliftonStrengths, because it basically is saying, here's what you have, how do you use more of it? And for the things that you don't have, let's create strategies for how to get around those things. But let's not focus on your weaknesses. Let's focus on what you're good at and go from good to great. And for the things you're bad at, there's so many strategies that you can use to say like, okay, well, like if I'm high competition in my example, but I'm really bad at discipline, how can I use my competition to be more disciplined, right?
Mm.
As opposed to somebody's like, oh, well, I just got to be really I got to be like a disciplined person. So it's like it basically says, how do you work from what you have to get at all of the outcomes that you want, rather than trying to be this like balanced person that just ends up being mediocre at everything. It's like, let's be great at certain things and solve for the things that we're not great at, either with our own strengths or pull from other people's strengths to do them. Or in some
Yeah, that's
cases,
where my head goes.
yes.
Yeah.
And in some cases, it's being honest with yourself. Like, do I even need to do this? Or is this something I think I need to do? Do I think I need to be a person that does these things? And sometimes the answer is no. And that can also be really liberating, right? To say like, oh, I guess I thought I need to be this way, but it's not me.
Right.
And I don't need it to accomplish the things I need to accomplish.
Hmm. I love this. Justin did have a question, and
Yes.
you did answer it a little bit already with the podcasts that you mentioned. He's already taken the Myers-Briggs, he's taken the Clifton, and several others. He
Ah.
did throw his top 5 here, but his
Ooh.
question is, how would you recommend someone getting value out of them? He hasn't really gotten any actionable, kind of insight. It
Mm.
sounds like, hey, pay $650 to come talk to Rosie. No.
Yeah. Well, yeah, certainly, obviously I could take people deeper. So, oh gosh, and I'm not surprised to hear that you're high deliberative, and high intellection, because people that are high deliberative take a lot of thought and care in their decisions. You being Justin,
Right, yeah.
take a lot of thought and care in their decisions. And people that are high intellection, I'm also high intellection. I wonder if you are too, Nathaniel. And they just like to have like deep thought. They like to muse about things. They like to marinate on things. And usually they're very reflective and introspective. And
Hmm.
so to go back to your question around how do I get value out of it? The number one thing, whether you've taken just the top 5 or the full 34, is to read the report. In the report, they have each of the themes. I can't remember what his number 1 was, but like I know analytical was 1, right? So go to the section on
Restorative.
restorative was his
Sorry.
number. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So restorative, go to the first, or depending on if it's the top 5 report or not, it's like the starting on page 3 if it's the longer report. It'll say restorative. It'll give you the definition. Here's what restorative means, just the generic definition. And then it gives all of these colored boxes, like restorative is a purple executing theme. So it says, okay, there's probably 5 boxes that says, this is how restorative shows up for you, because his number 3 was harmony, and his number 4 was deliberative, and his number 5 was intellection. So it takes into account. So like read those descriptors because they're customized based on your unique combination of themes. So
Mm,
that's number one. And what's fascinating is there's like a 1 in 33 million chance that you have the same top 5 themes in the same order as somebody else. So the database of like unique responses in those colored custom boxes is huge. I asked Gallup for it, and they were like, absolutely not, right? This is like our bread and butter. Um, so so read that part, but then after the colored boxes of like, this is how this theme shows up for you, it gives you around 5 bullet points of here's how you can use your restorative more intentionally, because that's the value of CliftonStrengths. Like if it was just an assessment that was interesting information, I would not use it. I've got
yeah.
enough interesting things in my life. It's like it can be actionable, like you can use it very intentionally. So restorative, as an example, restorative is a problem solving theme. And so people that are high restorative like to get their hands in the problem. A lot of times people that are high restorative, like when I work with engineers, I usually see them high restorative because they want to be like, again, get in at solving the problem, and they usually like solving the root cause of the problem. So they don't want to like put a band-aid on it. They are like, let's figure out what the real problem is and get in and solve it. And so yes, it's like thinking about, okay, like if that is me and that's true for me, how do I use that in other areas of my life? And so a lot of times it'll say like, well, what's a goal that you have, or what's something in your life that you've been struggling with, right? How can you use your restorative to help you like work through that obstacle that maybe you've come around, right? Maybe
Mm,
you're high harmony and you're shying away from having hard conversations because that's a blind spot for harmony. They don't want to disrupt harmony. You're shying away from having hard conversations. How can you use your restorative then to say, okay, yes, it's disrupting the harmony, but it's going to solve the real problem in this relationship. So I'm going to lean into that discomfort because
yeah.
it's going to create better harmony in the long run, and it's going to appease my restorative by solving the problem. So that's
Yeah.
like a made up example, but a very real example of like the ways that you might use those things.
Yeah, you sold me. No.
Oh, $60
Yeah,
to Gallup.
yeah,
Yeah.
done, yeah. I and I can answer this kind of, but, Matt wants to know where we would find the goal setting workbook, if he's interested in purchasing that
Oh,
from you.
sure.
I can
Yeah.
put the link in the description if is it easily just said right now on the podcast?
It
No.
should be, but it's not. Yes.
Okay.
I'll put a link in the podcast. And I also have a
Yeah.
free Facebook group that I can't put a link in your podcast, but I will share a link with you. If you go to though my actually, as I say that, if you go to my Instagram at the Rosie
Okay.
Noel, in my
Yeah.
link in bio, there's a link to the goal setting blueprint.
Okay.
And anybody that I just rolled it out last week, I did this goal setting call on it. And anybody that gets the blueprint, I'm doing a call with just the people that order the blueprint to take them through it and help answer questions. And so that's just something I'm going to do one time, and then I'll put the recording in for anybody that orders it.
Okay.
But yeah, so it's in my link in bio, and I love it. I was so excited about it because it's like I didn't even mean to make this. I ended up making it for like me and my husband to set better goals, and then I'm like, well, may as well
Yeah.
share it with other people too. So
That's
yeah,
what I hear. The best things are made out of necessity, right?
yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
And then Grady's asking, uh, kind of more personal to you,
Yeah.
is there a strength or set of strengths that you found that you like working with the most?
Oh, what was the
Yeah.
person's name? Grady?
Grady, yeah, Grady
Grady.
Iverson. Yeah.
Um,
I appreciate you having your last name there, Grady.
yeah.
No.
Grady Anderson?
Iverson. No, he doesn't have his
Iverson.
last name. I just
Oh,
took
oh, oh, you just know.
Yeah.
Okay, a set of strengths I like working with the most. Ooh, that's a good question. So no, because
Okay.
and it's funny. So my number 4 CliftonStrengths is individualization. Adaptability sounds like a good number 1. Ooh, I'll
Yeah.
tell you more about adaptability.
Okay.
Um, So the reason no for me, like they all bring, I think all of the strengths are beautiful, right? Themes are neutral. So um though I'm human and obviously all humans carry bias, I
Mm,
I think that they all just bring such unique qualities. And my number 4 Clifton strength is individualization, which means I think everybody is like unique and special in their own way. And I want to help bring more of that out. So I think because of my own strengths, I don't have a preferred type of set of strengths that I work with, but I do have I essentially take different approaches with different people. If I'm coaching with somebody that's high deliberative, I know that they're really going to be analyzing what I'm saying, and like probably if they're high analytical, like trying to poke holes in what I'm saying, right? Not because they're trying to criticize me, but to really like understand it. So I'll probably approach my coaching differently than if I'm with somebody who's high influencing. I have a new client I onboarded and I sent her some pre-work, and I knew there was like a 3% chance she was going to do it because of her strengths. I was like, she's probably not going to do any of this pre-work. And I met with her and I was like, yeah, you didn't do any of that. She's like, oh yeah, I didn't even look at it. I was like, that's cool. Like, again, it's for you. It's not for me. And like, I just adapt to their style. Right. So I don't,
Mm.
that's essentially because I know the strengths so well. I do think they bring a lot of like beauty and uniqueness with them. And I like to adapt to what I think will get the best results for that person based on their strengths.
Yeah, I love that. How long have you been doing this CliftonStrengths now?
So I've been a coach for just almost 8 years,
Okay.
and CliftonStrengths for about 4.
Okay.
And but over the last 2 years has been really, really intense. It's almost been like my pure focus is CliftonStrengths. Not pure focus, but like very because I introduced it in so many. I introduced it in my corporate space, and then I introduced it into a lot of like real estate spaces. It's been something that I've just really been pulling on a ton.
Yeah.
So it's really like a deep level of expertise that I've developed it. And I love it. It's such a powerful tool. And I love that it's something you only take one time. It's not something that's intended to change. Like it's a lot of people, what's really funny is I coached with like a CEO who was high competition. I'll stick with that example. And he was like, well, of course I have to be high competition. I'm a CEO. I
Mm.
had to compete to be number one. And I'm like, not every, I've coached with a lot of CEOs. Not every CEO is high competition. It was just the strength that he used, right, to help himself become a CEO. That's one of the strengths he used. And so that's what I love about this is like, it just helps you understand, or I'm sorry, let me go back to the, it helps you understand yourself at a deeper level. And when you look back, it's kind of like, yes, I kind of always have been this way. Like when I think about what my number one strength is, I'm like, yeah, I've been this way since I was a kid. And
Mm.
but what it looked like when I was 7 years old versus when I was 20 versus now that I'm 39 are very different. The way I
Mm.
use it has developed and grown over time. And that's what's cool about it is like and Gallup has done so much research around it. And really the only times to retake it are it's like if you were distracted when you took it, if you didn't take it in your native language, or if you had a traumatic life event that happened that you were forever changed after, that really
Okay.
just changed how you approach the world. But yes, so I love that about it too, is it's really just to like identify sort of like your raw DNA from and how you show up in the world in that way.
You didn't add if you're Nathaniel and you phonily take it, to try to be an engineer when you shouldn't be an engineer,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, but you
Yeah.
obviously have an analytical mind, so I still think you have a lot of green, but I'm guessing you have some orange of those orange influencing themes in there too, which would the orange influencing themes are ones that don't like to be like, typically, they're more the visionary type of roles. They don't
Okay.
like to be, um, like, if I see an integrator, like and I'll put engineer in, like, the same category as an integrator, right? That has orange, it's usually then they're like leading a team or they're doing right they're still doing something that's allowing them to have that influence that orange these orange influencing themes like to have versus green themes are yes like I was an actuary so it's like yes I'm sitting behind a computer and I'm just doing the things and the numbers but I also have these blue relationship building themes where I like but I like people and I like helping grow and develop people and so now I've just kind of combined those to say grow and develop people and just use my
Mm.
analytical mind to blend. Great.
Yeah. See, I I feel pulled in many different directions sometimes because I do like diving in deep, and you mentioned the problem solving with going to the root cause. Like I was a mechanic a long time ago, and it would frustrate me
Mm.
when like, oh, just put a new fuse there. Well, what's causing the fuse to blow? Like, what the heck is going on here? So like just putting a band-aid on a fire hose kind of a thing. But and then sometimes I just don't wanna sit down and find the problems. I just wanna delegate that to somebody so I could go do something different. So I do feel like this tension inside all the time of,
Yeah.
am I an introvert? Am I an extrovert? Am I a visionary? Am I an integrator? Because I like doing them both. But No, I haven't taken it, Jim. I will be taking this though for sure after this
Yes.
conversation. Yeah. Uh,
Yes, I'm
what
dying
else?
to please share. Please take the $60 version because I wanna see the full page of your first, because I'll see what's high
Okay.
and low.
Yeah.
Um, and yes, and I'm happy to write, like, tell you what in whatever capacity, share more with you about your strengths. A lot of times in my Facebook group, I'll have people post the first page of their results, and then I'll kinda say, "Hey, what's something you're struggling with right now?" Or like, "Do you have a goal?" And I can give them some ideas of how of the goal, or I'll just say, "Hey, here's how I think these are likely to show
Yeah.
up for you." But I'm guessing you have orange in mixed in with your green.
Okay.
And to
Yeah.
kind of hit on, oh, sorry. No, go ahead.
Oh no, I was gonna say Grady and I share certain things, and orange seems to be maybe one of the ones that we share. Yeah.
So yes, I'm like, I've only had such like limited conversations with you to be able to guess. But what Grady said, so with Clifton Strengths, there's the 34 themes, and then there's these 4 domains. And the domains are the colors, and that's where they group the talents. So all of the
Okay.
34 themes, each of them fits into one of the 4 domains. And the domains, orange is influencing. And if you lead with influencing themes, then that means that yes, like your first thought when you go to have a conversation or like solve a problem is, how can I make this bigger? How can I elevate this? Like that's the Paces and the Venas of the world,
Mm,
right? Like how can I take this? How can I speak up on somebody else's behalf? How can I elevate this? If you're somebody that leads with blue, relationship building, that's like 𝐸 𝐸. He's like the only one that leads with something that's not orange and in a lot of these real estate community
mm,
leaders. And so oh, Jerry Norton, I was just thinking his wife is green and Jerry Norton is blue, or is orange. But if you lead with blue, your first thought is going to be like, how can I bring this to my team? Or how can I help? How does this help me deepen my relationship with my spouse? Like that's their first thought, is going to be around going deeper with people. So orange and blue are both people focused themes, but the orange domain
okay.
goes wide with people so they can like do a lot with a little with people. They cast a wide net. Blue, and it goes really fast. Blue goes deep with people. So that's like slower, more intentional. And then the other 2 colors, green and purple, those are the outcomes focused themes. So green is the slowest and orange is the fastest. So if you have orange and green, you can feel like a push and a pull.
Mm,
Green is outcomes focused. So their first thought when they go to have a conversation or solve a problem is to think. They're like, well, if you lead with green, you're like, that's me. I'm like, well, let me process this first before I
mm,
do anything else.
yeah.
And if you lead with purple, your first thought is like, I need to go. It's the second fastest theme. It's like what needs to be taken care of, what needs to happen. So like that, right? It's executing. So it's about getting things done. So
Okay.
orange and purple go the fastest and blue and green go the slowest. And so usually you have a combination of those domains, like anywhere between 2 and 4. Most commonly people have 3 in their top 10, but some people have 4. The least common is 2. Usually people have 3 to 4 to pull on. Um, but everybody has a leading and most intense domain. So I'll tell you where you can find that in the report too, because that part isn't as obvious. So it goes so deep. It's so overwhelming. The first time I saw the report, I'm like, 34 words, a DNA code, 4 different colors. Like, what is happening? And there's some words where you're like,
Yeah.
my number one strength is input. I'm like, what the heck is input? I don't even know what that means in this context. So
Yeah.
it's
Grady said one here, and maybe it got cut off, but he said woo.
Yeah, no, he's right. Okay,
Okay. Yeah.
these are the top 2 questions I get when people take the assessment. The first question, what the heck is woo? And the second question I get is, why is my empathy so low? If their empathy is low. Um, and
Mm,
so I'd be curious where Grady's at least with blue, so maybe it's not low for him. But woo stands for win others over. Um,
okay.
so
Okay.
a lot of times people that are good at like capital raising or any type of sales role, a lot of times I'll see them with high woo because it's like they love networking. They love to make a best friend in 5 minutes and then go move on to make another best friend, right? They'll strike up
Okay.
conversations with strangers. So that's high woo. And like I said, in the real estate space, it's a lot of people I see that are doing like capital raising that tend to be higher woo.
Yeah. I feel very brown right now. But uh,
It's just like just an amalgamation of all the
yeah,
colors.
just like mud. Yeah. I wanted to ask you about the goal setting and kind of how you approach that, but I've been using ChatGPT a lot for
Mm.
different, thought things and questions and that I'm wrestling with. Is that something that you could bring your Clifton strengths to? And kind of dive into how to best utilize that? Is that something that you've done before?
Using ChatGPT specifically?
Yeah. Or I mean, any other AI-ish tool that,
Yeah.
not AI-ish, but yeah.
Yes. Yes, I personally have used it. I know a lot of people that, like, if they're on a team, right, they'll put their team's report. You can put your report into ChatGPT and say,
Okay.
"Hey, here's my team." Right, or you can just paste in your team's strengths. I always recommend, if you wanna look at a team, look at the full 34, because you wanna see what strengths they bring, but also, like, what are our gaps gonna be as a team? If we're all
Mhm.
low in discipline, we have to come up with a solution for that then, right? Um and so, yes, you can put those in, and you can certainly ask ChatGPT. The level, like anything with ChatGPT, like, it makes assumptions around what it thinks the definition is, right? So, like, there's certain things that don't capture, like, all of the nuances of CliftonStrengths, but it's certainly like a quick and dirty way to give you more context of how to use them. So, yes, I think it was Justin, was that his name?
Justin was one of the names.
Justin,
Yeah.
who was asking about, like, he was like, I took it, but I haven't been able to use it very
Oh,
much."
yes.
That's certainly one way, is you could ask ChatGPT for more ideas of how to use it intentionally.
Okay. Yeah,
Um,
we're getting this is a maybe we're gonna have you come back on in, like, May or something. Yeah.
yeah, I would
Yeah.
I love doing live breakdowns for people. I just did one for a couple where I, like, put their results in a grid together, like a team grid, and said,
Okay.
like, "Okay, here's your strongest things as a couple, here's your weakest things as a couple." And so we kind of, like, talked through that. So so yes, it's a lot of fun to just break down both individuals and teams live on podcasts. I do that a lot.
I've been having fun just hearing you break I mean, you can tell you've done a lot in 4 years, and you've really gone deep into this because the way you just rattle things off with the different colors and the different names and being able to put, a top 5 together and say, "Well, this is how they would use that, and this is how they work together." You can tell that you've been doing this and you've really got a passion, Ikigai on it. No, that's not the right word.
Yeah,
Use of
yeah,
that is that,
yeah,
yeah.
no, it feeds my Ikigai. It feeds my
Yeah,
Ikigai.
it feeds
That,
the
like,
Ikigai,
it
yeah.
feeds my gross guy. Yeah, that
Yeah,
sounds really
gross guy, yeah. Oh,
good.
I wanted to ask you about the goal setting because that's something that you've kind of been pivoting and focusing towards. I've been doing a lot of goal setting with my Fit Fatherhood group, which is a
Mm,
group that we created for, busy dads that are trying to take control of their health. And a lot of the people that we've been bringing in, well, I shouldn't say a lot, but some of the people, they've never really set a smart goal before and then been able to break that down into action plans and stuff like that. How do you approach goal setting with your clients and other people that come into your
yeah.
fold?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, such a good question. I have so much energy around this right now too,
Yeah.
because it's just so present.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, just to Grady's comment, thank you. It made me feel emotional when I read that. It just means a
Oh,
lot because I do care. That's part of I went to school to be a teacher, and, like, helping people has always, like, I went to school to be I wanted to be an early childhood special ed teacher. Then I ended up getting a degree in being a math teacher and went the actuary route, went the math route. And then I was like, what am I doing?
yeah.
So, and I found that I had more energy for helping my coworkers, like, show up and be the best versions of themselves than I did crunching the numbers for my clients.
Mm.
And so like, coaching has kind of been that intersection of, like, getting back to some of my teaching roots, but still using the analytical side, like the report, right? That, like, gives me more data to use to help people. Um, so yes. And what I will say around goal setting, just for a little bit of context too, in my role, my corporate role, I did talent development management. If people that have not been in the corporate space, essentially part of my role was coaching. So that was a big part of my role, was just doing coaching. And then it was also things like, yeah, whether it was like org design, talent mapping, right? Helping teams, like, architect how they can get the most out of their teams, goal setting, building out curriculums and leadership programs. And so I haven't really done a ton with goal setting since I became an entrepreneur.
Mm.
But that was, like, my background is I sat over like 600 people, and I helped build out the tools and processes for setting goals for the 600 employees.
Wow.
So I ended up creating, like, this workbook, which is essentially, and I have, like, the paid version in my right in my link in bio and on Instagram, but I also have just a free download that just kind of gives you, like, a taste of what it is for setting goals, right? It's like it's, I don't know, like 7 or 8 pages. Um, so that's also there too, and it's like a free mini guide. But now to answer that question, What I have found in my own experience, in my research, like my corporate experience, and certainly as an entrepreneur, is that like so many of us like start with the goal and then we try to build all of this stuff around it to make the goal happen. And what I mean when I say that, I'll give the context of real estate because I'm so entrenched in so many circles there, right? People will say, I want to, right, like start wholesaling. I'll just give that as an example. Like, okay, well, why wholesaling? First of all, why real estate to begin with? There's a
Mm.
million things you can do to make money. Why did you choose real estate? So like, right, we'll dig into that. And then we'll dig into like, okay, well now why wholesaling? What is that leading you to? Where are you going with that? And so what I have found is sometimes people will choose the goal first because either they haven't, it's like the surface level goal, right? They are like, I don't know, somebody told me that if I want to get money, I need to be in real estate, right? Like, okay, well, like, let's dig deeper. Or I want to make money so that I can have this like freedom of time, and real estate's the best vehicle. So what I have found with goals is like the general framework is you do have to start with some form of reflection. And like depending on the person and how much you like that, like you have to pause and just look back. So if you are setting goals this year, which January is just a really good time after the dust settles.
Yeah.
And so you have to look back at, like I always say, look back at the last year, right? What were my successes and what things did not go the way that I wanted them to? So look back. I also like always recommend doing, like I say, reflect and assess. So look back at right your successes, your failures, what obstacles that you faced, the things that energize you, the things that drained you, and then look at things like have you done like the wheel of life?
Hmm.
So I call it like a goal wheel because sometimes wheel of life is like
Yeah.
too crunchy for people. Right, but do something like that where you basically assess different things in your life, like on a scale from 1 to 10, right? How satisfied am I with my relationships or with my career, etc. So like assess from that perspective. And then I also say assess your values. So this is like what are the things we all might do the same things. We like there's so many people doing real estate. What strengths are they using and what values are they lighting up in them, right? So I say like taking just some intentional time to identify what are the things that I value and how present are those things in my life today and how present do I want them to be. And I'll just give you an example. Like when I was going through my own goal setting activity, my core values have always like for a long time have been trust, connection, and growth. And when I was going, I was like, okay, values evolve over time. So it's like, I want to see if they've changed. And I ended up adding, like, when you do your values, you should do like 3 to 5. And I ended up adding creativity and fun. And so when I was ranking my values, I was like, yeah, I feel pretty good about trust, growth, and connectivity. Those are alive. I'm happy with where they're at. But when I added creativity and fun, I was like, yeah, I'm at like a 4 out of 10 in how present those things are. And I want them to be a 9. So
Mm.
now I know when I'm setting goals, okay, like these are things that I value that are important to me that that are not infused in my life. So they need to be incorporated when I'm setting my goals. And so it's like taking that intentional time to establish like where you've been, where you are, and where you want to go. So now then when you go to set goals, you say, okay, what can I put? Where are the gaps when I looked at? Where are the things where I'm like, I'm at a 4 and I want to be at a 9. My relationships are at a 2 when I did my goal wheel. So where are there opportunities that I need to incorporate into my goals? And then, so yes, SMART goals, but I actually recently discovered STRAM goals, which is just SMART goals spelled in a different way.
Yeah. Okay.
But so using like this, what I found with the SMART goal format, which stands for anybody listening, right? Specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, time bound. Sometimes people say realistic instead of relevant. But STRAM goals, it's just a little bit different. It's specific, measurable, or excuse me, STRAM, ST, specific, time bound, relevant, realistic, aligned, motivating. And so what I like
Oh,
is like
okay.
the most important things are the S and the T. Make it
That's okay.
specific and make it time bound.
Yeah.
Like I want to lose 20 pounds in the next 6 months. Period. Right? Like that's not a
That's
goal.
my example all the time.
Yeah, it's because it's
Yeah.
so simple.
Yeah,
Everybody
it's
can
easy one.
relate. Like
Yeah.
yes, that's specific in time. That's all you need. And then
Mm.
the RAM, the what is it? I always like have to
Yeah,
unremember SMART. Um,
realistic,
aligned, motivated.
aligned, and motivating. I had to read my chicken scratch over here. I
Yeah.
tried to keep up. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So right. So then it's like, okay, yes. Is it realistic? Yes. I didn't say I want to lose 20 pounds in 1 hour, right? That's not a realistic goal.
Right.
So is it realistic? Yes. Is it like you don't have to write that down? It's just kind of for you to be mindful of. Is it realistic? Yes. Is it aligned? Specifically, is it aligned with my values? Is it like I just went through this values activity? Is it aligned with is this aligned with helping me improve my relationships? Because that's obviously something, right, that came out when I was doing my goal wheel. So is it aligned with the things that matter to me? And then motivating, yeah, do I feel excited about achieving this goal?
Yeah.
And so those are things you don't have to write down. It's just keeping them in mind. And if you're looking at like the RAM and you're like, okay, I need to tweak this a little bit because actually like this doesn't fully excite me. And and then from there, that's when I like to pull in strengths because it's like, okay, this is a goal. And I'll give my husband as an example. One of his goals is like just vaguely to exercise more, right? He's still kind of defining what that looks for him, but he wants to exercise more. And he leads with blue CliftonStrengths. So I'm like, okay, we were talking, and some of his strengths, he's high includer, which likes to build community. I'm like, why don't you join a group of men that want to work out, right? Or why don't you find a friend? He's all relation. Yeah, yes, maybe. That's such a great idea.
Yeah.
Right, like find a community that would allow you to work out. So join a club, join a community,
Mhm.
find a friend that also wants to work out and go to the gym with them, right? Like he is high relationship building. So it's like, how can you use the strengths that you have so that it feels exciting and fun and motivating to go to the gym instead of like,
Yeah.
I got to do it because I have this goal. So it's like strengths help us understand, it's like essentially build a plan that's going to be exciting to help us achieve the goal and it's going to be energizing. And
Mhm.
so that's sort of like roughly the way to go about it. And then really like the core of the last piece is you have to check back in on your goals, right? Like you have to, and when you have big goals, you have to break them down into milestones. So if you have a goal by the end of this year, it's going to feel huge. What do you want to just do in the next quarter, right? In the
Yeah.
next 3 months, what does that look like? But then check in at least quarterly on your goals, if not like ideally monthly, but at least quarterly on your goals and change them. It is okay to change your goals if they're not working, if it's not serving you. You might need to choose a new goal or you might need to tweak your goal, right? You might find 3 months in, I thought I wanted this thing, but I actually don't. And here's what the real goal should be. So, like, also don't be afraid to change your goal because like they're going to evolve
Mm.
as you start to pursue them.
Yeah. I love that. I don't wanna, like, just plug Fit Fatherhood, but it's not for
Yeah.
everybody, because you mentioned a couple different things there, like, if you're really looking for a gym buddy, well, Fit Fatherhood might not be the right fit for you because we're virtual. We have people all over the country, but if you're just looking for, like, community and accountability, and that like bonding and people to kind of push you to do more stuff. That's what we're great at is
Yeah.
kind of keeping it and just putting ideas in your head like, oh, have you tried this? Are you doing this? And we're evolving outside of just fitness as well. But enough with that. I love the STRAM
Yeah.
because I totally agree with you that specific and measurable or time measurable are the most important too. The other 3 are important. It should be relevant to what you're doing. It should be and having the motivating in there is super powerful now
Yeah.
as your last little piece of the puzzle. Am I motivated to get up and do what's needed for me to lose the 20 pounds in 3 months? I
Yes.
like and I'll get your opinion here, realistic, especially with the time thing, what's the opposite of I don't know, I can't think of what the word would be, but, is it realistic for me to lose 20 pounds in 3 years? Yeah, but that's too long of a goal now. So, like, what's the I don't know how to change the R in that a little bit to, like, realistic and reasonable or something. Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Yes, it's like realistic kind of replaces the achievable from the SMART goal,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Um, yes, because all like research also shows you should set big goals and ambitious goals, right? So
Mhm.
you should push yourself. But yeah, how do you determine where that line is? Like I always like to give this example of like, I don't know, an 18-year-old who says, I want to be a billionaire at the end of the year. Like, could you be absolutely like, is it realistic? No. Do I want to deter people from like big goals like that? No. But also if you it's like it's like asking yourself, do I have the resources
Mm.
to achieve this goal? Do I have all the things? Like, resources are a big thing. Do I have the resources I need to achieve this goal? And
It's gonna be
but yes, I would.
STRAM.
What's that?
It's gonna be STRAM. Yeah. Yeah.
But yes, but is the essence of your question, like, how do you make sure that you are pushing yourself to set a goal? Like, is that essentially what it is? Like, not choosing something
Well,
that's like
like,
so far out, but also pushing yourself?
yeah, like you don't wanna make it too easy in a sense. You you want it to be a challenge. You want it to be realistic though, right? Like, to go back
Yeah.
to the 20, am I gonna lose 20 pounds in a week? Not healthily, at least.
Yeah.
But, is 20 pounds in a year too long? Well, most likely that's probably too long unless you
Yeah.
don't really have 20 pounds to lose then. But now
Yeah.
we're getting
Well,
in the
and
weeds of
that
that.
can be, yeah. But it can be like, okay, well, it's like, why, like, then why, it's like asking yourself, like, okay, well, why did I choose this time frame? Like with the 18-year-old billionaire, why a
Mm,
year? Right? If you're
yeah,
trying to lose 20 pounds in a year, why a year? It might be like, I don't want to make any lifestyle changes. I want to, like, huge lifestyle changes. I do want to feel better about my body, but I'm a mom with young kids and I've got a busy, like, it's just not
mm,
realistic for me to
yeah,
spend, like, to go work out as much as I would like. So I would just like to make small changes in my life that accumulate. So I'm losing 2 pounds a month, right? And that just for me right now is, so it's also like, if you are choosing a less aggressive or ambitious goal, it's also like, yeah, how does it align with my values? Because if I choose something like 20 pounds in 3 months, that means it's going to be a real priority in my life. And is that something I want to prioritize right now or can
yeah,
prioritize, especially relative to my values? Like, does it get me closer to my values or further to my values? And so sometimes it's like, yes, like, you should choose big goals, but they can't all be big goals either. And
right.
so, like, what is like kind of the number one priority? And for some people, it might be weight loss because they really want that or need that. And other people might be like, yeah, that's a goal of mine, but it's not a big goal. And so I'm going to be aggressive on something else.
Yeah, and knowing, going back to the kind of the wheel of life, which I'll link it in the description because I did a video on the wheel of life. I believe it was the
Oh,
beginning of last year. Yeah, just knowing that if you're lacking in one area on the wheel and you're going to start to prioritize that, you have to be okay with potentially other parts of the wheel are going to go a little flat, so to speak. You're going to have to take a little bit from one area to give more in the other area potentially. Um, I don't want to. I want to be respectful of your time here as we close networking with Nathaniel out. Typically, I
yeah.
like to ask a couple of questions. You've been pre-queried about them at this point, so uh, you know we have a lot of people that are looking to grow both from a mindset and a business and all the perspectives, and a big part of that is reading, listening to podcasts and watching documentaries and things like that, but reading and absorbing information from other people. It seems like you've done a lot of that over your time. What are some recommendations that you would have for the audience on things that have influenced you, ikigai related or otherwise?
Yes. Oh my gosh. I when you said that, I was like, I wish I had an Ikigai book.
Yeah.
And I don't have an Ikigai book recommendation, but I
Okay.
have just a couple. If you like the concepts of CliftonStrengths, there's a book. Yeah, thank you, Jim. There's a book called Strengths Finder 2.0. Clifton Strengths used to be called Strengths Finder. And if you buy the book from Gallup, it has a code for you to take your assessment and you get a free top 5 assessment
Okay.
with it. So that's just it. It's a really good book if you're interested in the concept of Clifton Strengths. Um, other another one that I would recommend. These are assessment based ones, but I think this one is really good. I used to teach on it in my corporate world. It's called Emotional Intelligence 2.0, which
Okay.
we didn't talk about emotional intelligence in this conversation, but it gives you an assessment to help you look at, like, how am I doing in the 4 different quadrants of emotional intelligence. And like, emotional intelligence is like the bedrock for so much internal work, right? Like
Mm,
mindset work. If you don't have self-awareness, then, like, it's going to be really hard to do mindset work.
yeah.
So if you are, like, new to somebody who's doing mindset work, or honestly just want, like, the best leaders are highly emotionally intelligent leaders. So if you want to just level up as a leader, that's a really good book. And I like it because it has an assessment.
Okay.
So those are kind of the two more assessment-based books that I would recommend, that I think that people generally tend to find helpful, and I do a lot of work around them as well.
I love it. Anything that you're just like, hey, I liked reading this book.
Um, it's getting a lot of buzz right now, but I really have liked reading the Mel Robbins Let Them book. Um,
Okay.
if you can like listen to like her podcast, she talks about it, but the basic premise is like it's like let them and let me. So it's like I'll give it, oh, so and so is doing better than me in their business, like let them, right? It's like
Mm,
whatever it is, if or my parents don't approve of the way that I'm parenting my children, let them disapprove, right? And so it's like letting go of what other people the things that other people might put on us, and then it's like really like turning it inward and saying like let them disprove of how I choose to parent my children, and let me stay grounded in what it is that I believe is right and best
mm,
for my family. And so it's really powerful. So I highly recommend, even if you don't get the book is great, but she talks about it on her podcast, and you can get it like a little flavor of that as well. So that's been
I
my
love it.
latest and greatest.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, I think that is a powerful way that we can regulate ourselves when the world is telling us otherwise. Like, yeah, let them tell the other. I know what I'm doing. I have a clear vision of where I'm at and where I'm going and what I want for my family. Jim's saying it's next on his list. So,
Oh, good, good.
And Pansy's here listening to Amel as well. As we close out the show, I know I have an idea of the where the answer is going to go, but you never know. I've had ideas before. When your time on this earth is done, Rosie, and you're wherever you believe you're at. What do you want to be remembered for by the people that you've left behind?
Um, yeah, this one is easy for me. It's difficult to articulate well, but easy for me conceptually, which is like I just want to be remembered for love, which sounds so cheesy to say,
Mm,
but like I want to have spread and shared as much love with people in whatever form that means for me. Coaching is one of the ways that I do it, right? But with my friends, family, any relationship is just to help to grow more love in the world, and whatever in whatever ways I can embody that, is how I would want to be remembered.
I love that. I love that.
You love
I
love.
Yeah, I do. The more of that we have in this world, the better we're all gonna be. That's for darn sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you being here. I'm gonna boot you off. If you've got to go, Rosie, I totally get it. If you would leave your browser open so it'll finish
Yeah,
recording
yeah.
here
Yeah, no,
on
and
your end.
I'll stick around after you kick
Okay.
me out.
All right. I appreciate it. I'll
Thanks.
be right back. Oh, I kicked her out really quick. She said, thanks to everybody. Thanks for being here live. I'm going to say the same. Thank you, Rosie, for being here with us. That was very informative. I think probably at least the majority of you would agree we could go on for a couple hours here just talking about the strengths and the goal setting and the mindset and all that goes into it. It's applicable in your businesses, in your careers, in your relationships, in yourself, and just getting yourself motivated to do what you need to do. I appreciate y'all for being here. As always, if you got any value out of that, please hit the like button on the video, whatever you're watching this thing on at the moment. Please hit the like button. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, please subscribe so we can reach more people and you can know when we go live, exactly when we do it. If you're out there and you're in your real estate business and you're trying to get unstuck, I have a Zoom that goes live every Thursday at noon Eastern time called Helping Hands Hour. The link for that is in the description of the show. You are welcome to come join us and just get any questions that you have answered, or just network with people in there. There's people getting connected every single week in there. And as we mentioned on the show, I also have a Facebook group, Fit Fatherhood, for busy dads. I know, sorry, ladies, and sorry, not fathers out there, but it is tailored to dads right now. We're trying to help these busy dads take control of their health and wellness so we can be great role models for our families and just be here as long as we can to play and wrestle and all the things with our little ones. If you can't tell, I'm very passionate about being a dad and putting my family first. I appreciate y'all for being here, whether live or in the future. Until next time, Dog Dad does count. Grady, come on in.